Connor.
Present.
Commissioner Tucci.
Present.
Commissioner Ellis.
Present.
Commissioner Kulian. And Commissioner Trahan.
Present. Minutes of the previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to
Minutes. And we have a second on that one.
yeah, second.
Motion made, seconded. All those, I'll call roll.
Commissioner Connor.
Yes.
Commissioner Tucci.
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis.
Yes.
Commissioner Kulian.
Yes.
And Commissioner Trahan.
Yes. Betty, comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Commission recently solicited a request for proposal for the professional engineering services for the sewer separation preliminary design 2017. These notices were posted in the State Central Register, the Lynn item, Lynn Water Sewer website, and also in the lobby. On November 16th, two proposals were received from the firms of Santec Consulting Services Incorporated, Burlington, Mass., and Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated, Peabody, Mass. The technical proposals were turned over to the Evaluation Committee, Executive Director O'Neill, Deputy Director Fennell, and Chief Engineer Marino for their review and evaluation. Upon completion of the evaluation of the technical proposals, the committee found both firms, Weston and Sampson Engineers and Stantec Consulting Services, qualified, meeting the requirements of the RFP. Proposals were required to submit a lump sum total price for engineering services, inclusive of all labor costs, surveying, borings, and aerial photography. On December 6th, the price proposals were opened with the following results. Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated, total price $489,000. Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated, total price $699,865. Based on the evaluation and price, the Evaluation Committee unanimously recommends that the Commission award a contract to Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated. Weston and Sampson Engineers have been under contract with the Commission since 2015 as one of their 3 consulting engineering firms. I therefore recommend that the Commission award a contract with professional engineering services for the sewer separation preliminary design 2017 to the highly qualified proposer offering the lowest lump sum price, Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated, as bid.
Mr. Chairman, I make a recommendation that we go along with the recommendations of the committee and award the contract to Weston and Sampson.
Do I have a second on the motion? The chair will second the motion.
Do we have questions?
Any discussion on the motion?
Yes. So, just one question I had was, what happened to CDM? We were going to go out, they were going to, it was suggested that we would go out last meeting, but they didn't put in a...
No.
No, we only received 2. We did not receive one from CH2 nor CDM.
Okay, all right. And was there any differences in the engineering services between the 2 firms?
Were there differences?
Yeah.
You could probably talk to the chairman, Fennell, he was the chairman of the committee, he could probably explain their opinion.
Yeah, Peter, there was definitely 2 differences where I believe, in my opinion, Weston and Sampson was more definite, defiant in their responses to us, and there was more assumptions with the other proposal, in my opinion. I feel we get for what we're looking for, a better bang for the dollar, and then once we opened up the package, it was a better bang for the dollar with the lowest bid. But just comparing both, it seems that they had a stronger proposal than Santec.
Is there any consideration taken besides the price? You know, the price is lower with Weston and Sampson, you know, size of the firm, experience doing that type of work, you know, that sort of thing.
I took, well, as a layperson, I took, looking at both proposals, I took into context that. But I still believe that if you read the proposals, Weston and Sampson is basing all their information, what they're looking for, on all new GIS surveying and stuff like that, not assuming that there's information that's already existing. They're going out and getting their own information brand new. As when they start the project, they are going out into the field. Well, the first thing they said was they're going to just do a timeline ASAP, so we know exactly what is going to happen, and give it to the commission. And first thing, that's what they're going to do. The next thing, during the construction phase, they have a team of people that are going to be out there in the neighborhood, working and knocking on doors, and they have a in-house design shop that's going to be able to notify the neighbors of anything like that. The other company didn't have anything that in existence. So I just felt and then they're working, they have a management control team that works with traffic management and stuff like that, which they handle. So we hand it to them. They're gonna handle all that stuff that's gonna take a lot of burden off of, the agency. So I just thought that was better in the proposal. They added a lot more things, less than the assumptions that were done with the other.
Could I request a short presentation from each of the firms, maybe 5 minutes?
Also, can
Yeah.
the other thing, there was what, 16? There's people that took out the RFPs.
Yeah,
And there was only 2 companies that returned them the bid.
it was
So
22.
that company
22
you asked
and
for.
only two.
Yeah,
Was
there-
CDM one that took out the bid? I'm just curious
Yeah.
I believe
why
that
they,
the chief engineer spoke with CDM, somebody spoke with CDM as to their opinion of why they didn't submit a bid.
Yeah, they just said they weren't gonna submit. I don't have anything more to offer than that. I did reach out to them, since they are engineer rec, and I also reached out to CH2, since they're our engineer rec, and they said they're not gonna submit. They didn't go into any detail.
no reason.
No reason.
Should we do a short presentation? They're both here.
Now, to do a short presentation, there's nothing, is there anything we can change here, or by doing this, or
I'd like to hear, they're both here, it's a big job. Like
are they both here? I mean, I don't know if.
Yes.
Were they prepared to do this, or?
Should be, right?
would
I don't know
hope
if they're prepared, but I'm sure they can do it. I mean, they weren't told they're gonna need a presentation, but I'm sure they're capable of doing
If the
it.
board wants to allow it, then I suppose we should call a roll on it to make sure it's all right. Want to call a roll on and let them appear, or
Presentation.
speak on it?
Yes,
Okay, Commissioner Capano,
yes.
Commissioner Calucci.
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis,
Yes.
Commissioner Fudian,
No.
and Commissioner Trahan.
Yes. Okay, so.
All right, so this is
how do we-
David Elma, he's from Weston and Sampson, and I believe this is Matt from Stantec. Matt?
Van Hoven.
Oh, I'm sorry, David Van,
That's fine.
I thought it was Matt Travis, I thought. Okay, so
Well,
David
why don't we
from Stantec.
Why don't we let them go first, and then the other can go second?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know what questions they want to ask you, but I guess it's
Sure,
okay.
somewhere sand or, doesn't matter.
Right there is good.
Did you guys want to start with any questions? You want me to just kind of give a brief overview of, our qualifications?
overview, there's a couple of questions.
Sure. So, we do large sewer separation programs across the country, but particularly here in Massachusetts. We currently are working on Cambridge's sewer separation program, Boston Water and Sewer separation program, Springfield Water and Sewer Commission's sewer separation program, particularly in Springfield. We developed their 40-year long-term control plan for $250 million. That we're currently working on the design of the third project for that, which is a 50 MGD pump station with 3 24-inch crossings across the Connecticut River. In Cambridge, we just wrapped up the final stage of the consent order program there that's tied to the Boston Harbor cleanup. The last phases of that was 4 concurrent construction contracts going on, $75 million worth of construction happening over the same 4-year period, 220 acres of sewer separation. In Boston Water and Sewer Commission, we did their large 200-acre Roxbury sewer separation program, and we were just reselected for their South Boston sewer separation program, which just started last year. So that kind of gives you a flavor of what we're doing just here in Massachusetts. I mean, we're working for Hartford MDC, Narragansett Bay Commission in Rhode Island as well, but those are just the large programs on sewer separation that we do just here in Massachusetts. So that's kind of a background of our experience and qualifications here doing this type of work here in Massachusetts.
Okay. This particular project here,
Yep.
is there anything you can add? I mean, it looks like the issue here is you guys a little bit more than the other firm. So
Yep.
just trying to compare, reasons, why
Sure.
you would choose one over the other.
Yeah, I mean, so our price is based on our experience on those other programs. What you guys have in front of you here is 220 acres of sewer separation. Just looking through, the information you guys have in your area, you're talking about a design that's gonna have to have between 80 and 85 plan and profile sheets, all which need to be designed in the next 6 months to meet the consent order schedule. You're talking about a large 40 to 50 MGD stormwater pump station that's going to be located near the ocean in high groundwater, geotechnically difficult situation. It's complicated, right? The price that we includes what's necessary to get that done in 6 months at a level that we think is appropriate and responsible to respond to your RFP. And so that's the difference. I mean, we do this all over the place. We have the folks that are doing that work currently price this out, and that's what it's going to cost to do this job.
How many people work for your company?
The company overall, worldwide, is 22,000. We have over 500 people here in New England as a loan to draw on, but thousands across the country here in North America.
I got a question.
Yes.
Can you lower the price?
I don't think we can responsibly lower the price. I mean, one of the things we included in our proposal is that we would recommend putting off some of the survey and the boring work until final design phase, which would lower the price for this preliminary design to get to July by $100,000. So it would be $599 to get to July and the submission to DEP for your consent order schedule. Because our experience on these other programs and in Boston and in Cambridge is that a lot of times if you just go out and just survey everything and just go do borings every 500 feet on every street, when you get to final design, you may not be doing certain work on certain streets, or you may need more information that you didn't know you needed on that first boring and you have to go back. So, we find that it's usually more cost effective to go back and do those later in the design once you've kind of flushed out where we're going to be putting pipes, how deep you're going to have pipes, how we're getting across the Linway, where do we need to do boring so that we can do pits or whatever's necessary to do a trenchless crossing there. There's a lot that still needs to be figured out before you can really just dive in.
Any questions for him?
Do you have any, you've never worked anything in the North Shore area? Do you have any employees that have worked in the North Shore area?
We do. So one of our resident project representatives that we propose in this has done work for Lynn Water and Sewer on some of the previous phases of sewer separation. The RE that's out there watching stuff be constructed, we're proposing him.
Who was that?
Peter Oslick. He used to work for CDM at the time in the previous phases, but he's been with us and worked on the Cambridge sewer separation work that we were just wrapping up.
Do you have any other employees on contract with you that have had that type of Lynn experience with what ours is?
Not specifically working in Lynn. That's one of the reasons we're working with Tetra Tech and Tony to bring some of that previous experience and some of the negotiations that have happened in the past with DEP and EPA on this consent order.
Is this you? Is this Tony?
Yes, Tony Omobono. I'm sorry, didn't introduce him.
We know him.
Yeah, so we're working with Tony to bring some of that history with the program, as well as previous negotiations that have happened with DEP and EPA, so that we're not just going in blind, with you guys to discuss discuss things with them and moving this consent order forward.
Any other questions?
Yes. Tony, did you put together the facilities plan that we're working off of to do this project that has identified the need for the pump station, et cetera? And you've worked for us a number of years, and you were at the meeting at City Hall where we had neighborhood input that's required. So you did hydraulic modeling and you came up with what our proposal was that we actually put out. So I know that you understand that well, very well. You have a superior knowledge on that. And so I'm glad to see that you have somebody of that caliber. That I know we did this once before. We had a small firm and a large firm, and we just looked at price and not performance. And I checked with the state today, and they told me to look at for boards and commissions and how we proceed in issues of financial issues like this and what our responsibilities are. It's to find the best value. And so that's not always price. If we can have somebody that has just done the project, understands its implementation, understands the needs of the residents in the community, that's a unique thing to get. That somebody already was part of the consent decree filings in supporting that task, and that's worth a lot of money. When we did one of these projects in the past, we just took the smaller person, we did a simplistic approach. We didn't go with a company that had that experience, that wasn't availed, but we went with a huge company, and then the smaller one didn't perform, and we ended up spending almost $50 million on a project that didn't work, and so that project had to be stopped. So we're here to replace that tonight. We need also, for what you just said with that $100,000, that brings us very close to the same price for the scale of the project that we're doing between the two people. So what I want to know from the other company is what big...
Just wait till the other.
Okay, okay, that's the format?
Yeah.
What do you have?
So I just wanted to add, Commissioner, you had asked if the firm had experience on the North Shore. Collectively, we do. I was responsible for the Gloucester CSO sewer separation project, for managing that work. So collectively, and that's why we believe this is a very strong team, because there's probably more sewer separation programs between the two firms than I would imagine anybody could submit on.
You are familiar with the needs in the River Street neighborhood in Councilor Capano's area where they need relief?
Yes.
And we need some design work that makes sure that that works as part of the overall scheme of what we're doing?
Correct.
There are things like that that are important to this ward councilor that gets set.
Any other questions on this? Okay, I guess we can go on to the next firm now.
Good evening. My name is David Elmer with Weston and Sampson Engineers. I appreciate the opportunity to share a few remarks with you. My firm was founded in 1899. We're one of the oldest engineering firms in the area. We're located in Peabody, about 6 or 7 miles from here. Our firm does not have 22,000 people. We have about 500 employees, and virtually our entire project team will be based out of our Centennial Drive office. We have sewer separation experience in Somerville, in Worcester, and in Chelsea. We've been doing sewer separation work in Chelsea for the past 25 years. We have experience with consent decree, ACO management. We've done complex urban infrastructure work throughout eastern Massachusetts. Our firm does extend up and down the East Coast, but we were founded and based here in Massachusetts. We will do a great job for the commission on this project. We have the staff, we have the experience, our resources are ready to get to work for you right away. That schedule that we talked about is very important. With the survey work, the geotechnical exploration, it's very critical that this project gets started as soon as possible in order to meet that July deadline. There are a variety of ways to approach this project. Our proposal is 100% compliant with the RFP and the request. There was some discussion about borings. If the commission decides that a more lean boring approach is the right way to go, that's certainly something that can be argued and decided. But if that is removed from the price, a similar reduction in price for our scope would occur, because we did carry the 1,500 some odd vertical feet of borings at each of those locations. We did carry a back-of-sidewalk to back-of-sidewalk survey to collect comprehensive utility information that'll be useful not only for the preliminary design, but the final design, construction documents, all the way through record drawings. Our team is made up of local staff. We have people who are born and raised in Lynn on the team. We have done work for the commission in the past. Of particular note is our work on the citywide GIS program, where we're digitizing and updating the commission's GIS. We've done every record drawing within the project area. We're very familiar with those areas. We have all of the data. Our staff has reviewed those. We're ready to get started. With regards to historical knowledge, we don't have that background. We haven't been working on this project for you for many years. I think that this RFP was well timed and well placed in that you're moving out of the planning phase and you're moving into the design phase. Which means that, not that historical knowledge isn't important, of course it is, but it's not as important as we move into design. Most of the modeling, most of the work that sets out the framework, the planning work that sets out the framework for this job has already been established. It's laid out very directly and clearly in your design memos. In your assessment of climate change requirements. I think that we're perfectly suited to help you take this project forward and to do a great job for you.
You people are all ready to start tomorrow,
Tonight?
right?
Yes, sir.
And we can get the show on the road. No problems. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Why waste time, Peter? Let's go.
Welcome. Any other questions? Any questions? Go ahead, Dave.
What work have you done in Lynn?
We're under contract currently to perform a flow monitoring evaluation to help the city become compliant with the 314 CMR 12 regulations. That contract is scheduled to get meters in the ground in February. We're communicating with DEP and helping reach an agreement on the metering network, the size of the basins, and finalize the approach to that job. We're also working with the Commission on the GIS updates citywide.
Okay, that's the only work.
Our water group also has some work at the plant.
What work is that?
I'm not familiar with the exact nature of those contracts.
Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. The two firms we have here, we have,
Wait a minute. Is there any other questions for,
okay,
any other questions for them?
I don't have any right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Go ahead, Dave.
we have a firm with a principal that goes back to, with Tony O, goes back to the failed project, and all the experience of those over decades of experience of working in Lynn, seeing things that worked, didn't work, supported us in our efforts to get money back on that failed project, has been our engineer of record, has run our public meetings with us for this project, has already been working on this project and already did the initial design of that big sheet of all the different options that we could have, and got approved with the federal and state government for this project. We have a much smaller firm here. We have a much bigger firm here that has big projects the same size and the 200,000 acre size as we do in our area with the same permitting people. There's cost savings in that. And there's insurance, this insures by having that type of scale and that extensive, non-replaceable by just about anybody else. I think that's probably why you didn't see a CDM put an application in. That, hey, this is the heavy hitter here. It's the person that just did that work for us, has been successful. And I'll tell you, the work we do have assigned to Weston and Sampson, I'm not happy with. I'm not happy it's taken over 2 years. We have one of the best water superintendents in the state of Massachusetts. It's taken over 2 years to get the chlorine gas removed out of there, and it's still not out. But the contractor, Viola, down at the other plant, has removed that hazard. So that track record doesn't speak well for me. And I'm gonna stick with a known value. And as we saw, I heard nothing from this contractor about savings. This person brought savings, that there's work that saves time that didn't need to be done in the scope we put out, and significant amount of savings. So that brings that table on there, knock 100,000 off the difference right away. And I'm quite sure we'll find more value in the future with this firm.
Now, Tony, are you working for this company now?
No, I'm a subcontractor to them on this
So
project.
you're just a subcontractor?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wondered, I didn't know what was going on.
And you're working on this project as a subcontractor for this company?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions here? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Just a comment. Just a
Go ahead.
comment. I think, you know, both firms probably do the job. I mean, I have no reason to think they couldn't for respectable firms. But we do have, with Stantec, with Tony doing the work, a history, you know, that's valuable. And that would be a lot of, I mean, years of experience working on this particular project that we would just be losing. I mean, it doesn't come, I mean, how often do you have somebody that has that type of history with the project and wrote a lot of the phase for the CSO? I mean, he wrote it and has come to some all the meetings here, just has the history. I mean, you know, there's a value to that too, you know, that doesn't reflect in this one particular bid. I just think the service provided by Stantec with Tony doing that work would be worth doing. I mean, I think that's the way I would go, especially if we could get that 100,000 off the price and do that work later, like he suggested. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Now, Anthony, you were on the reviewing committee, right? Okay, and Bobby and Danny. Being an engineer, having dealt with both companies, do you feel as though there's a problem?
Well, I haven't dealt with both companies. I've only dealt with Weston and Sampson. I've never dealt with Stantec. I have no
Well, you
experience.
dealt with supposedly who they've got to represent them.
Tony, absolutely, yes, many years, yeah. But not the firm
But, I
Stantec.
mean, do
But
you,
Weston Sampson,
now
yeah.
you
they-
guys came out with a recommendation now. Do you have any problems, or do you feel as though the company that they're going with is qualified?
The Stantec or Weston Sampson?
Yeah.
With Weston Sampson, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like David had mentioned, they've done a complete GIS through the whole city. So they're very familiar with all our plans. They've digitized them. They've built the whole GIS system. So as far as being familiar with the city, they're very familiar. The gentleman who did that for them is Dan Shinnick, who's, you know, the Shinnick family is a local family in Lynn, did all that work. They're also helping us with the II program, which will be involved with beatering, and we've been doing the II program for many years here. And, you know, thirdly, just a clarification on the work at the water treatment plant. I know Dave has done it in his division, but there has been no delay on that. That's something that's in DEP's hands, and the plans and specs are done. We're just waiting for DEP to approve those. So that has no reflection on their firm for those being tardy at all. That's just something we're waiting on DEP, and that's common to wait on approvals like that. So they did a fine job with that project. The project they've worked on for me, I've never had a problem. So that's why I felt that I had given both firms highly advantageous.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna call the roll.
What is the
The roll is
motion?
to award the contract to Weston Sampson, the low bidder. That's the motion made by Walter Cruz. Okay, we're gonna call the roll.
Commissioner Capano?
No.
Commissioner Tucci?
No.
Commissioner Ellis?
No.
Commissioner Pruitt?
I'm for Weston and Sampson, 110%.
Walter, just yes or no? Yes.
I'm for Weston and Sampson.
Okay, good.
And I'll vote yes. So where do we go from here now?
I'd like to make a motion to award the contract to Stantec Consulting Services.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
I think it's a big mistake, because citizens of Lynn.
Now, there's $200,000 different in this bid. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. And this company, Weston Sampson, they've been around. I can remember them doing work for the city, I'm going back 20 years ago.
Mr. Chairman, you can speak.
So, I mean, it isn't like it's a, I don't know, you want me to pass the chair?
Yeah, you can pass it to him. I'm not the vice president.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. As I said, as I know, I've seen the performance here. I'm not happy that our community has had to be under a cloud of chlorine, waiting for them to get the work done. The other people that did that removal down on the Linway also had to work with the state entities also, and other people across the Commonwealth too, and it's taken too long. That does not reflect on, we've got somebody here that has more swimming medals, water medals, than Mark Spitz. You know, he would drive that project. I don't see it being driven. And this company here that's put together knows the hydraulic models already even, because they set up for which plan would work, which helped minimize costs of doing that negotiations with the federal and state bodies. So we need somebody that has that experience, knows the failed project, knows the facilities planned intimately. This company rattled off every big project that's been done in Massachusetts. As we've been there, we've done it in Mass, and we've done the permitting. And in their proposal, they saved $100,000. That I didn't hear any savings on the other side, but they said, hey, don't do all that work until you get a better model. So my vote is with that.
Peter?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Weston and Sampson. My thing is, the total project, you know, the whole job, you know, when it's done over years is, you know, reported to be over $100 million. So I just think it's really important that we get this phase done, you know, with the, you know, I feel more confident with a bigger firm and with the history that Tony provides when working on this. You know, I just think I feel more confident that we get off to a good start, you know, this way here. It's a little bit more, but in the long run, you know, going with a bigger company and the history, I just think makes sense.
Oh, you know, in all fairness too, I mean, if Dave wants to talk about problems with companies and stuff, we've had some problems with Tony over the years.
I'm not
on some
talking
projects,
I'm
so-
not talking
I
about
mean, it
problems with
isn't
either
like
company.
we haven't
I'm not-
had problems.
I'm not talking about problems with either company. The committee has said both companies are
You're very
qualified.
well aware of that.
It says right here, they're both qualified, meeting the requirements of the RFP.
Okay,
I'm
then,
good with that. I have no criticisms of either ones. I don't know enough about, you know, the things they've done wrong, you know, so, you know, I know that, you know, if you're doing work, you're gonna make mistakes, you know, if you're not doing anything, you'll be perfect, so, you know, for the reasons I stated earlier, you know, I feel better, I feel more confident going with Stantec.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to call the question.
There's a motion, a second, call the roll.
Commissioner Capano?
Yes.
Commissioner Calucci?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Prudian?
No.
And Commissioner Trahan?
No.
So just point of clarification, do we enter into a $699,000 contract with them or a $599,000 contract with them? Because his price was $489, so I just don't know what are we...
Let me ask, could I ask the end, Tony, does it make sense to, you know, what they suggested about,
I know.
you know, doing that part of the project later and cutting down, you know, $100,000 off the project?
So, probably, but I would feel more comfortable giving you that answer as the project moves forward.
First of all, before we go any further on this, Betty, can we legally do this? Sam?
Well,
Of course we can.
If the company agrees to lower its price,
After a bid?
well, if you award the contract to Stantec and they bid $699, he volunteered that they could reduce it.
Right.
So they can't go up, but they can come down.
We just did that. That action has taken place under Robert's rules. That's delivered immediately and receivable back.
So if I can finish my answer with yes, I think so, but I would want to work, have the project started and work through the project before I made that complete determination that some of those things could be.
Sam, is there a way we can add to the motion or amend the motion to reflect what Tony just says? I just want it to be able to work.
Which Tony?
Oh, this Tony Marino. You know, I'm trying to, you know, work it so, you know, if it makes sense to do it, you know, I want to do it, but I'm not sure how to word that in a motion. I want to leave the flexibility
If you go back to
there.
what Betty and I told you 2 months ago, you didn't have to go through any of this process. You could have awarded engineering services because they're exempt under 30B to any engineering firm you found qualified and at whatever.
No, I
price
understand
they
that, I understand
So,
that, but.
so what you've done is you rejected the RFP proposal because they didn't recommend Stantec, and you've gone, and that's, in my view, that's what you've done. You've exercised your rights that exist to award engineering services to a company that was not recommended. The question that the executive director raised is in response, I think, to what was said here. He's trying to find out what's the price.
I get it, but with the reduction in price comes a reduction in service, and I'm trying to understand
Well,
whether
I'm
that.
not an
whether-
engineer. I
Yeah,
heard him
okay.
say, I heard him say that it had to do with borings.
Right,
But, I mean, my unfamiliarity with engineering, when I looked at the bids, I thought they were remarkable in one way. That if you looked at surveying, they were within the same dollar ranges. You look through each task, they were very similar.
Sam, we're all set. The motion passed, there, that's discussion. As far as discussing the money, I don't think we should be doing that right here today. I think that should be done,
We're gonna sign a contract tomorrow or sometime. What's the contract for?
So I'd like
I mean, they're
to,
gonna change it, I mean, have they got the authority to change it right here now?
It's actually written into the proposal.
yeah, it's in here. It says it in here. So I just want to word it so people understand it. I would like to amend the motion to include the reduction of $100,000.
We already voted on the other motion, so maybe we should, can we call another motion, or?
You can amend it, right?
Want to add an amendment to the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can amend the motion?
Yeah. It's a
That motion was approved.
contract.
But I don't think there was a price that, can you read, I mean, I didn't hear
I'd like to
anything,
make-
the motion I heard was to award it to Stanley.
I'd like to make a
The
motion.
motion
I'd
on the
like
vote
to
will be
make,
for what they bid the contract for.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the contract awarded to Stantec be for a price of $599,000, excluding the boring as described in the presentation by Stantec.
Dave?
I just want to ask a question. Is that something that's within the scope that you put in, that if we accept that route, you can go that route?
Yes, we can. I mean, to Tony's point, it would give the commission and the staff a little more flexibility to make that decision further down the road. But we can lock in a contract that specifies the number of borings that we'll have in this initial contract and the linear feet of survey to have that 599 number. But again, to Tony's point, we might want to have staff have that flexibility.
Danny, what do you think? How should we handle it?
Oh,
We just awarded.
I think you guys
We
did
wanted
what
the
you did.
contract, but I'm talking about the
I-
one.
I'd like to amend my motion, there was no second, that the contract to Stantec does not exceed $599,000.
The chair will second that motion. Go ahead. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing no discussion, call the roll.
Okay, Commissioner Capano?
Yes.
Commissioner Calucci?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Pollution?
No.
And Commissioner Trahan?
Yes. We're all set with this now, right? Project update, Fortina.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the wastewater treatment plant met all performance requirements, averaging 18.16 MGD in the month of November. Rainfall was 1.57 inches. BOD and TSS removals were well above what's required. BOD and TSS loadings were normal. Relic Farms was normal. And that's my report.
Any questions for Bob? Hearing no questions, we'll go on to Danny, water treatment plan update. Rick, I mean.
Rick, yeah. Yeah, he's a swimmer. Mark Spitz, Tom Spitz, gold medalist.
The Water and Sewer Commission
Awards.
is in compliance with all federal and state drinking water regulations. The water supply capacity as of yesterday was 58%. The average for this time of year is 65%. 9 of the 10 contract positions are currently filled. Mark Lane, who retired on August 29th, has been maintained to fill operator positions as needed and to assist with the water treatment laboratory operations. Viola Water is still looking to fill the operator position. They have 2 candidates, but they're not from around that close to this area, so they're trying to work out something to see if they can get them to move, like from the South Shore of Massachusetts. So it's a little bit of a drive, so they're trying to work out some type of arrangements. Currently, we do have all the positions, all the operations filled, and Mark has agreed to stay on in the part-time capacity until the 5th position is filled, and that is totally on Viola's dime. In regards to the chlorine conversion, the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission in Weston Sampson submitted a response to the DEP on November 13th to address all the deficiencies. We're currently waiting for the DEP to complete their review of our response and approve the project so the final bid documents can be completed. And that is the report.
Okay, Rick, thanks for the report. CSO updates.
I think we addressed this for quite a bit earlier today. I don't really have anything more. I think we beat that one to death.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah, I couldn't summarize what happened, so. We're all good.
Danny,
What?
Dave Charles will take care of the audit.
Yeah, good, that's perfect, thank
You don't
you.
want to do it?
No, thanks.
In your packages is the 2017 audit. It was done timely. We have 120 days after the close of the fiscal year. We were successful in accomplishing that goal. I'm here tonight with Chris Cullen from O'Connor and Drew, the audit firm that did the audit, and we'll be glad to answer any questions about the financial side as you may see fit. But Chris is here to make a presentation to the board, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As Dave mentioned, I am Chris Cullen. I'm an audit manager from O'Connor and Drew. We've been doing the audit services for 3 years now. And what I have in front of you is our required communication. This is information that our standards require to present to those in charge of governance, which is you. The first page is the auditor's responsibility. We performed our audit under government auditing standards. What that does is require us to issue 2 reports. One is on the audited numbers, the financial numbers themselves, and also we have to consider internal controls, and we prepare a report on the internal controls. We perform our audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance. What that means is the audit is performed on a test basis instead of going through each and every individual account. So the test basis gives us reasonable assurance. As I mentioned, we also consider internal controls, and we test internal controls to make sure everything is sufficient. The next page shows that we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, that first report, which is a good opinion. And also we've found no material weaknesses or deficiencies on internal control. So the other internal control report is also a good report. The next page discusses significant accounting policies. There were no significant changes to accounting policies this year, and no significant transactions that were out of the course of normal business. The next page shows our accounting adjustments. Most of these are adjustments that are performed every year, including regulatory GASB 62 adjustments and those related to GASB 68. The next page, we have to discuss management and estimates. As part of any audit, there are estimates and management judgments. Those would be things like the allowance for doubtful accounts, unbilled revenues, depreciable lives and net assets, your deferred credits and reserves, and OPEB and pension liabilities, which are done by an actuary. Other communications, we did not have any disagreements with management. We consulted with the Lynn Contributory Retirement Systems for your pension and your OPEB liabilities. There's no major issues with management prior to retention. We didn't find any difficulty performing the audit, and we have the engagement letter and management representation letter which have been signed. The next page discusses how we are independent. We are independent as defined by our standards, and we provided no additional management advisory services or tax services. The next page discusses fraud. We're not engaged to find fraud, but if we come across fraud, we are required to disclose it to those in charge of governance, which is you. And since you haven't heard from us already, that shows we have not found any fraud as part of the engagement. And then the last thing just discusses that as part of the audit, we looked at some some employee files and there's some signatures missing, which has been taken care of, subsequently taken care of. So that is our required information. You have the audit financial statements in front of you, or I don't know if you had a chance to go through them, but are there any questions related to the audit?
Any questions of the board? Any questions for Dave? Everyone comfortable?
Well done, Dave.
Yes, everything went very well. Him and his staff did a great job this year.
All right.
Great.
Good. You want to give him a raise?
That's not up to me. I can always recommend it.
Yeah. What was that again? I said what, 100,000. Okay, anything on the new business? We don't need to vote on any of this audit, right?
No.
No, not this meeting. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know that the full board, we've gone through a period of a lot of work to get to where we are. But the holidays are coming up. We hope everybody had a great holiday this year, and that we come back healthy, safe, and have a more prosperous and productive year next year. And thank you for your efforts this year.
Thank you.
Okay, I think the board will second that. What's the wish of the board?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, second, all those in favor, aye. All in